broadcasting live from the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia. Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Before we get into today's show, I just want to remind you that I offer training in channeling, psychic art, spirit art, psychic development, advanced mediumship, and I offer a 12 weeks training and certification program. I'm also going to be starting in July of 2018 kids psychic development series, all done by webinar, live. Yes, it's live. It's not some fill out the blank on an email thing. It's the real deal. So anyway, so happy Halloween. And when we think about Halloween, we usually think about ghosts. And ghosts bring us around to ghost stories. And today's guest is the legendary rock and roll ghost hunter. He has over 30 years of experience in paranormal research, and he's been a professional musician even longer than that. He is the founder and president of the Louisville Ghost Hunters Society, which was formed in 1996 and has over 4,000 members worldwide. And he's been on hundreds of radio stations internationally, so I'm particularly happy he came on here. And he has been seen on the Sci-Fi Channel. He is host and associate producer of the Booth Brothers Spooked TV. And he's been present as a speaker at just nationally at many, many events, often the keynote speaker. And he has spoken at the American Ghost Society's conference, UnivCon, Haunted Hickory, and he hosts an Mid-South Paranormal Convention. And he has visited some of the scariest places on Earth. And, you know, I don't normally talk about scary stuff on this show because I like to keep the vibe positive. I also want to encourage people in their development. But often when people are tuning into their psychic abilities or mediumistic abilities, they start to have encounters. Some of them are not pretty. And so today, I think we will start asking Keith Age, our hero of the hour, to share with us some of his encounters with ghosts as a paranormal investigator and scientist and leader in the field. And also I might toss in a couple of my own. So welcome to the show, Keith Age.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited you decided to, and on Halloween of all days. That's just freaking awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, we're all busy at this time of year. I totally understand it.
Yep, absolutely. What I wanted to tell our listeners, if they want to check you out, that they can find you at this website, LouisvilleGHS.com. Yes?
Yes, or just look up my name on Facebook.
Keith Age. Okay, great. So before we get into our tales from the other side and encounters with beings and situations, I wondered if you would tell people about the series that you're in the process of actively filming. Tell us about Coexistence.
Okay, well, right now this is a new TV series with Robbie Thomas psychic out of Canada, and he is an actual criminal profiler. He works with a lot of the police departments all across Canada and the United States. And so we're actually visiting some of the most haunted places and some of the most places that have not been cherry-picked yet, that are, still low on the popularity list, or some that haven't even been explored yet.
Oh.
And we're going to be wrapping up filming for our first season next month in your part of the world at St. Albans.
Oh, yeah, over in Radford, Virginia. Yeah.
Yep. And that's November 18th. And one of the things that we do, we invite people to come and film with us. People who we've never met. You can be, psychics or just ghost hunters or whatever, and we see what we can find.
Oh, interesting. And when does the series air?
It'll air in 2018. It's going to be on either 2 or 3 stations, and I can't say which yet.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, understand that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll keep an ear out for Coexistence. And you said that it's spelled with an X instead of an S. So it has like an X in the middle of the word.
Right. And basically it's, 2 different views on, the ghost hunting and what we can find and what we do. You got the psychic side of it, and you have the ghost hunter side, because I am as psychic as a brick. I know a lot of people say everybody's got psychic endowments, and I'm like, look, I've been doing this going on 40 years now, and I've had plenty of things chucked at my head, and if I was psychic, I would have ducked.
Oh, so, you would have felt it coming.
Yeah.
Well, everybody pieces together that picture, of the other side. Sometimes stories are very touching, and sometimes they're scary, and sometimes they're really puzzling. And our encounters always remind us that there is something more to life than right here and now. You take predominantly a scientific approach, if I am not mistaken, yes?
You're correct. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I do it as scientifically as possible. I've said for many a year, that it's going to take the ghost hunter, the psychic, and the scientist to come together to finally figure out what this is. Is this, some earthly bound spirits that are trapped here, or is this another dimension? Is it another time slip that we don't know about that we're trying to figure out? What is this? Is it really, the dead coming back to try and talk to us? We don't know, and that's the whole thing of it.
Yeah, it just keeps getting interesting and interestinger and interestingerest.
Yeah.
So I know from previously speaking with you that you have visited some of the scariest places on Earth. What are some of the encounters like? Would you share with us today some ghost stories? I think everybody's in the mood.
Sure, and and not everything is paranormal in nature. When we talk about people and their feelings, lonely people and people who are experiencing things can take things totally wrong, and they automatically jump to the whole ghost thing or a demon.
Right. And, go to the dark side in their own thoughts. Absolutely. Yes.
You got it. When it's like we had a lady who called once and said, "You got to come over right now. My dead ex-husband is haunting me." And I'm like, "Okay, what makes you think he's haunting you?" And she said, "Because I just bought a toaster and it keeps burning the toast like he liked it."
Oh.
Really? I was like, "Well, see that little knob on the side there?" And she said, "Yeah, I've done turned it down." And I said, "Okay, where'd you get it at?" She said, "Walmart." And I said, "Well, take it back." She's like, "No, those poor people at Walmart, they work so hard for their money, and I go there every day, and I don't want him haunting them."
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
throw it away. And she's like, no, I can't do that because then you'd be riding with those poor garbage men. I really like them. I make them brownies every week. And I said, well, okay, I tell you what. I said, you got a paper towel? She said, yep. I said, we're going to get rid of your ghost for you. And she's like, well, how are we going to do that? I said, well, lay a paper towel on your counter. She said, I hear her rip paper towel off and lay it down. And she says, now what? I said, take your toaster, pick it up, and turn it upside down on the paper towel. And I hear a clunk, so I know she just did it. She says, now what? I said, well, lift it up. Tell me what you got. And I hear, oh, my Lord in heaven, I've got his ashes.
Oh, no. No, she didn't. Oh, my gosh.
Yes, she did.
Oh.
So I said, okay,
wow.
let's ball them ashes up and twist it in a tight little ball there and go throw it in the garbage. She goes, I got a garbage disposal. Will that work? I said, there you go. Man's going to get another burial.
Oh, she didn't want to share him with the garbage man and the other people, but she was fine to put his ashes down the garbage disposal.
There you go.
Wow.
So, not everything is paranormal.
No.
And, so you got different ways of dealing with things. You don't have to have an exorcism to help somebody who is just a little bit lonely and has, in their own mind, created a whole nother world.
Yes, yes. And I think that's really a pertinent point. And, people that are, it is really easy to attribute something. And I think it is important to always look for the logical or factual or physical rationale for it before you jump to conclusions.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then, there have been other places, I rode from one end of Australia to the other on a motorcycle, visiting all the different places, haunted places that I could find.
Mm-hmm.
And, had some harrowing times and things just cannot explain. And, for filming for Spook TV, we shot 10 movies for Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And, we went all over the American Badlands and basically places they don't send rats to, and some things have been really interesting, and other things people go, man, you get great evidence, in all your movies. I'm like, what you don't see is you might see 4 or 5 places we go to. It takes a year to shoot those, but you don't see the 30 that we've been to that we didn't capture anything.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's not haunted. Doesn't mean it's not haunted at all. It just means we didn't capture anything while we were there. And, it's not my job to get up here and out some of these places that are just in it for the money and, or trying to be fame and fortune, and because there's not that many are going to make a ton of money.
Yeah.
But some of the places that we have put on the map, like Waverly Hills, I'm the idiot that opened it up for everybody else, all the other ghost hunters, and Whispers Estates. That's one of my favorite places to go to. Just a little house in Mitchell, Indiana. Matter of fact, we just came shooting from there for our TV series. And a new phenomena has started happening there. And, we got 25 people inside, and we're in the main parlor where this young girl burned herself to death, basically, in the early 1900s. And we're standing there, and all of a sudden, money is dropping from the ceiling and just hitting the floor. Now, you want to talk about a quiet evening getting disturbed when we're sitting there doing an EVP session and you hear just change hitting the floor.
Wow.
And, that's the stuff that is the paranormal that's happening, not so much the ooga booga stuff where something's going to jump out at you.
Right. Yeah, there is that spectrum. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And, you're going to capture the voices and stuff like that. The other eerie thing about Whispers is where we have actually caught a baby crying and stuff like that. And there's baby actually buried in the backyard, and also several other children and a grandma and grandpa. So those are pretty cool. And then there's been plenty of times where I'm a musician from the 70s, so I don't have enough brain cells to get scared. But I have been spooked several times where, I have a door slammed in my face, or something has got a hold of me and slammed me up against a wall or
Mm-hmm.
through a wall, which has happened several times.
Wow.
So, again, we go back to the whole, what is this stuff? At
Yes.
Waverly, at Waverly in the early 2000s, when we were first exploring the place, something did not want me in this room, and of course, me being stupid, just basically antagonized it. I wasn't doing it intentionally, just, I was not reading the signs of the room saying, get out. Because like I said, I am not psychic in any way, shape, or form. And, the door opened several times. I just took this, oh, wow, cool, something's happening. Next thing I know, something had a hold of me, and I was through the wall right next to the door.
Wow.
And so, and then on Halloween morning of 2005, live TV with Fox TV and the Fox broadcasting thing that you see on cable, and sitting there, they got a shot set up, and me and this reporter walk through this doorway, and we're standing there talking, and from directly behind me, you see this chunk of cement come flying directly, diagonally off the wall, and just hit me in the back of the head, and just takes me off my feet.
Mm.
And of course the reporter's screaming, running down the hallway, and the cameraman's going, get up, talk. And I'm just like, what?
Oh, man.
So, yeah, there's plenty of things out there that can hurt you.
Yeah, there's a broadband, and it goes in just such a wide spectrum from extremely low vibrational all the way up to incredibly beautiful and, celestial as well. But yeah. And, you were talking earlier about the separation of the data, being able to, first of all, record something that is evidence that there's something tangential there going on. But I think that's kind of the same process in mediumship. We do it a different way. I guess we're the instrument kind of thing. But it is important to create that. And, for you, sorting through what could be physical phenomenon from paranormal phenomenon is the sort of the line there. For us, it's separating, whimsy or fantasy from, or, not imagination so much as fantasy, away from actually picking up on subtle energies. And it really does take some practice to get good at discerning energies. And I don't mean in the gross sense of like, that's a scary one, that's a positive one, but, what are your thoughts? What are you perceiving that isn't of you, kind of thing.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's, I work with a lot of psychics, and, there are some that you just look at and go, oh my God, I need to shoot this person.
Please don't shoot.
Well, I have been accused of shooting a psychic, and I did not shoot her. I shot over her head.
Were you running her off the scene because she was out of touch with reality there, or what happened?
Well, there is a place here in Kentucky called Hell's Gate in E-Town. It is nothing more than just a little old farm out in the country cemetery, family cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And it has got the nickname of Hell's Gate by people who have taken pictures of things that they're saying, oh, they're spirits, they're this, and this is the portal and doorway to hell. And I'm like going, it's dust, it's this, it's that. We can recreate it. Every picture I've seen from there, it can be recreated. And you're out so far in the woods, sounds are totally different. People don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Sound travels. There's a railroad track right behind it, so now you have basically a sound canal that can run through those rails. That just incredible what sound can do. And so this is just a little no nothing cemetery family plot thing, but it's back in the woods. And this very famous psychic got a hold of me, and she wanted to know if I could arrange it, that she could come out and visit it. And I said, well, sure you can. I said, I'll take care of it, and we'll get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a hold of the family and arranged it all, and she comes out in a 15-passenger van full of people. And she gets out of the van, and I'm standing there with two of my guys from the Louisville Ghost Hunters. And I've never met her, so I stick my hand out to shake it. And she drops to the ground, and she's just writhing. And she's like, oh, St. Michael's, please help me. There's so much dark energy here. I can't stand this. I can't take it. Oh, Lord, please help me. And she's, just flopping around. And I'm like, we haven't even hit the cemetery yet. It's up on top of this hill. You got to walk to get up there. And, I'm just like kind of flabbergasted at what's happening. And then next thing I know, all these people get out of this van and they kneel down. They put one hand on her and one hand up in the air. And I swear to God, I'm in, remember the movie Ghost and Mr. Chicken with Don Knotts?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Yep.
Well, every time they'd walk by Don Knotts, the tarot women of the town would one hand on him, the other hand up in the air, and they go, tarot, tarot, tarot. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm watching. And she's still flopping around, and this went on for about 5 minutes. And finally, I'd had enough, so I just pulled my gun out of my waistband and fired it up in the air. And as soon as that hammer hit that shell, she quit writhing, had that deer in the headlight look, and she got up. They didn't say a word. They got up, got back in the van, backed out, and left. And
rolled up her red carpet and took off.
Yeah. And I told my guys, I said, well, that's the first time I've ever seen a demon run from a 45.
That's right. That's
so,
right. Well, if she's...
Those are the type of people you just want to go, oh, my God. But then you got the legitimate ones, that I've worked with, like Scotty Rourke.
Yes.
Scotty and I have known each other for 25, 30 years. And, there's a few others and who are the legitimate thing,
Yeah.
And I can probably count on one hand how many of legitimate people I've worked with in these almost 40 years. And the other is probably about 30 more. I'm like, really, they just need to be shot somewhere.
Oh.
And,
so harsh. But I understand the sentiment. I do understand the sentiment because...
And it's not just the psychics. There are plenty of ghost hunters out there who you're like, what are you doing? You're scaring people to death. We had a guy call in and say, please come out. I'm ready to walk away from my house. I just had another paranormal team out here. They were here for 15 minutes. They ran screaming out the door, telling me I got 15 demons living underneath my stairwell. So we go out there for 6 months. We're showing him what's causing this noise and what's causing this noise and why his brand new TV is turning off and on by itself. And, all the things that, if you just actually do your job, to try and figure out what is causing the phenomena.
Yeah, debunking that, yes.
Well, not so much debunking. We don't go in there with the mind of all this is garbage.
Oh,
we go in there with an open mind of skepticism that, okay, let's see if we can find out what's causing X, Y, Z, or A to Z, what's going on. And, like with him, if you just do a little bit of investigating, we found out his neighbor, which is only 10 feet away from him, bought the same TV at Walmart a week after he did and put it on the same wall. And so when this guy turns his TV on, this guy turns his on, they get each other out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's little things like that. And so after 6 months, he says, well, where do you think, I told him we're leaving. He goes, well, where do you think the demons went? I said, I think they left 15 minutes after they got here.
It could be you
You
kids
know,
that run them off, you know. Just kidding.
no, no, this was
No,
a case of,
I'm being
you
completely
know, I,
facetious, you
I
know.
know
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You know, I don't want people to think I'm anti-psychic. I'm not, even though I've been called that. I'm not. It's just I'm anti-idiot. Whether
Yes.
it's, whether it's psychic, a ghost
Yes.
hunter, or it's people that can create more harm than they're actually doing good for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Integrity and not just authenticity, but integrity is incredibly important in both your work
Hmm.
and ours. Yeah. So you're dealing with, you've had encounters that are predominantly physical then with spirit, like voice
Right,
recognition,
right,
touch, objects moving, that kind of thing.
yeah,
Share us.
and yeah, and and I've had some pretty violent encounters. So I mean, when people get up here and say, "Oh, they can't hurt you, they can't hurt you," I'm like, really? I got the stitches to back that up.
Yeah,
You
what
know?
about that piece of concrete if you needed them?
Oh yeah, I've had my head busted open a few times. I've been thrown down a flight of stairs and broke my right forearm, my shoulder, my collarbone, 3 ribs. You know,
Wow.
and it wasn't just my big feet. Yeah, you could actually feel the push.
Yeah, yeah. I have had I don't collect them in my mind together, but I've had some pretty scary stuff that happened, especially during my 20s and before I started to work with more recently. Like my 20s, I had some encounters that were really disturbing, and so in my 30s, I asked for my clairvoyant sight to be because I'm very clairvoyant. So, well, I don't know. On a spectrum, I guess I'm not as clairvoyant as some, but hella more than others, and
Hmm.
I was just thinking about some of them, and I think it's important to talk about it because uh, people wonder when they see stuff like, what was that, and am I crazy, or is that weird, or whatever. And I think as you do develop your psychic ability and your mediumship abilities and your paranormal investigation, hopefully, I don't know, there, that that you can at least put some of that in perspective and understand what it is and put some boundaries there too.
Oh,
um,
sure. I mean,
yeah.
you got to know what your limits are. Whether it's being a psychic or a ghost hunter,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to know. And like I said, I don't walk into every place thinking it's haunted, but I don't walk into every place going, "Oh, this is crap," and
Right.
this person is nuts. But there have been plenty that I've walked into where we go, "Okay, this person is crazy, and
Uh-huh.
we need to get out of here as soon as possible." Uh,
Yeah.
and it's not just the unseen that can hurt you too.
That's right.
When we're filming Children of the Grave 2 for Sci-Fi, we were out in the Badlands in Soulcatcher during the Soulcatcher film, uh, and we walked onto Indian Bureau land, Sioux Nation, which they have their own laws and their own police department and everything else. And basically you're a foreigner coming into their land. So
Absolutely.
the first thing it did to me was they took my gun away from me, which is fine. I wasn't planning on shooting anybody or nothing.
No.
But we go into this old abandoned school, and it's getting dark, and the only thing I've got is a thermal imager, and I've got 3 people walking behind me. But this school has been open to the weather and elements, and the growth is taking it over.
Mm.
And we walk in, and all I can see is this little screen that I'm looking at, and I step on what I think is a branch, and when I step on it, it growls.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay. So the guy behind me goes, "Man, I really hope that's your belly growling." I'm like, "No, I was kind of wishing it was yours." And
You kind of know
I
it's
said,
not, though. Yeah.
yeah. So I said, well, let's back out of here till we can get some lights and the crew in here. And as we're doing, I'm dropping the thermal so I can kind of get my eyesight back. And I step on the branch again. It growls again. And I'm like, yeah, let's get out of here. So we look at the film the next day, and you can see the thermal's taking shot every second. And you can see me dropping it down. You see my feet, which they light up, bright because, they're heat.
Mm.
And then you see my leg, and you see my thigh, and then all of a sudden there's something lit up really hot behind me.
Mm.
And we get up here and look at it, try to figure it out. Finally, I get up here and we twist the photo upside down, and it's a mountain lion sitting there. I've stepped on his tail twice.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And so, not everything can kill you, but definitely a mountain lion could have.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I know I had an encounter a few weeks ago. I wasn't doing anything. I was just running errands and had dropped somebody off at their house. And as I came back around the corner, I heard a growl in the air, and it just went through me. And I'm not, generally speaking, scared of the other side, because most of the encounters that I have are positive, and I do have a perspective about the negative, but it was clearly, it was like suspended in the air, and just the hairs went up on my arms, because you don't expect something like face level to growl at you in the dark as you head to your car that's not there,
Right.
kind of thing. Have you had physical voices also? Like, I know you capture voice phenomenon with the equipment, but have you also had encounter with where it's audible to people?
Oh, yeah. Disembodied voices. Oh, yeah. One of the best ones we've got, and I actually was able to capture it on digital recorder, was Rhodes Hotel in Atlanta, Indiana. It's a very cool place. Again, one of my favorites. It has become one of my favorites.
Did you say Roach Hotel, literally?
No, not Roach. Rhodes, Roads.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was like, what?
No, it's not sponsored by Decon. Sorry. But this place is, from the minute we got there, little things were happening. And I'm sitting there talking on the phone to an agent and putting in batteries and cameras and stuff like that. And something walked by me in the dining room. And I'm waiting for it to walk past me, and there's nothing there. Well, next thing I hear is you can hear footsteps on the old creaky floor in front of me. So I followed into the main parlor, and there's a child's rocking chair sitting there. All of a sudden, it starts rocking on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that was the start of the night. And at the end of the night, me and my girlfriend were the only two there, period. Everybody else had gone. We had the keys to the place. And I let her pick which room we were going to stay in for the night. And she happened to pick the ex-madam's room because it was a bordello at one time.
Oh, uh-huh.
And the madam had actually died in the room. But she said this is the only room that doesn't feel like it's breathing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're laying there in bed talking. And it's got a glass doorknob. You know what I'm talking about? One of the old school doorknobs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're usually considered beautiful. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the mechanism is broken the door, so it has a slide bolt. That's what's locking the door from the inside. But it has a metal shank that's holding the two doorknobs together, in the door. And when you turn that, it's a square shank in a round hole, so it goes clunk, 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 clunk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the doorknob starts turning.
Oh.
And she goes, well, what do you think that is? I said, well, either something is trying to get our attention or someone has broken into the house.
Mm-hmm.
Only two things it could be.
Yep.
Well, about that time, from in between us on the bed, this laugh just shot out of nowhere. And we look at each other, and she's looking at me. I'm like, it's not me. I can't laugh that low. And she's like, all right. I said, where's my digital recorder? She goes, over on the dresser. I said, would you? She goes, nope, I'm not getting out of bed.
I understand.
I said, well, will you just reach over and just, nope, not going to do it. So she finally kind of did this jump, grab, pirouette, back into the bed thing. You know, she's afraid whatever was in the bed was probably under the bed and could grab her ankles or whatever, you know.
Totally.
So we're sitting there, and I turn the recorder on. I lay it next to the bed on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about an hour later, the doorknob starts turning again. She goes, okay, who do you think that is? And I made the joke because I've always say, you know, I've never seen a ghost. I've never, like you and I speaking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the joke saying, well, maybe it's finally Bob the ghost walking up going, hi, I'm Bob. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and the laugh did it again from on the bed in between us. But this time we caught it on the digital recorder.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we get plenty of disembodied voices.
Disembodied voices, that's the name. Yes.
Yeah. And like I said, it whispers. We've got, you know, the baby crying.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Could you hear
like
it
that.
audibly as well, or was it just recorded? Like, do you hear?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We were actually doing an interview with the owner of the place up in the child's bedroom, and it was coming from out of the hallway while we were actually doing the interview recording, and we recorded it on 9 different cameras and audio, so it came from somewhere in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah, you're triggering a memory that I have. I used to be a realtor and a real estate broker, and showing houses was an interesting process with somebody with my sensitivities. And there were certain houses I wouldn't go in, but this one house, for some reason, I ended up early, which is extraordinarily unusual for me. And so I went on in and I turned on the lights in the downstairs, and I thought about turning them on upstairs, but I thought, no, I'll do that later. So my client comes in. She was in a wheelchair, and she had brought her daughter and her husband. And the second she walked in, she goes, nope, I don't like this house at all. We're done. And so she wheels out, but the younger two decide to go upstairs just to see the rest of the house because they're curious. They came running down the stairs. Their eyes were like huge saucers. They're like, oh my God, a rocking chair, that's what triggered my memory, is like empty up there, and they said there's a rocking chair rocking and there's no one in it, and they bolted out the front door. So I'm curious, right? So I decided that I'm going to go upstairs and see that rocking chair, right? So I try to go up the stairs, and it was like these 2 hands grabbed my ankle and like kept me from going upstairs. And I'll have to give credit to guides and angels. I don't know. But I was like not really getting it, what was going on, you know? So I threw this thought up the stairs, like, fine, if you know, it's your house, we don't want it anyway, you know? And so I, telepathically was saying that, which was, now I know that was not good. And so this energy, like a swarm of bees, I can sense it rushing down the stairs. So I am rushing out the front door, and I can't get the door shut, and I'm pulling and and the doorknob became electrified. And I can't close the door. I dropped the doorknob, and I thought, okay. So I call the big burly husband, who's like ex-military, to help me close the door. No problem with the door going in, mind you. And so he pulls the door and actually dislocated his shoulder partially. I mean, it wrenched his shoulder to get the door shut. And for, I mean, like months after that, and actually to today, even to today, I just kind of avert my eyes when I go by that house because that was some creepy stuff.
Oh yeah, when we were shooting in the Badlands, we were at another, we were at a burnout school, and again on the Indian land, and they had a rock, a 10-pound rock holding this door shut because the wind was blowing so hard, and you know, it's an old school door that has the single pane of glass in it, but it's been broken out, and they had a rope going through it, and they said that the door opens on its own anyway. Something pushes the rock out of the way. So I grabbed hold of the rope and went, yeah, I'd like to see that. And next thing I know, something jerked me clean across the floor.
Oh my
rope
God.
in hand.
Oh,
and I started doing a tug of war with this rope. And one of the guys with us, I said, take a camera, go outside and film it from that side. I want to see what's happening. And he radios back. He says, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? He says, this rock is not moving. He goes, but we can see the rope pulling you.
wow.
And they're like going, how are you doing this? I'm like, I'm not doing it. I mean, it's literally dragging me across the floor.
Wow.
And yeah, so I know what you mean when you said, dislocating your shoulder. The first time it jerked me across the floor, it about pulled my arm out of socket.
Yeah.
They said, the rope that the rock is tied to is not moving from the windowsill down. It's moving from inside the room. So, and finally I'm giving it all I got, and I'm getting some headway and pulling it. And then this Indian woman walks up. She goes, don't let this white boy show you who's boss. He's on our land. Next thing I know, it just jerked me clean across the floor again. I was, okay, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, that malevolence, that triggers another story at my end. I was married to my first husband at the time. We had my first daughter, Kelly. She probably was about 14 months old. I can't remember exactly. Maybe even not that old. She might have been younger than a year. And we went to visit his great-grandmother, who was about 100 years old. And when we pulled up to the house, my stomach started to bother me. When I walked in the front door, I became intensely nauseous. And the pottery, the Native American pottery and I'm not belittling Native American spirit, will overlay on anything. But there was like a beam in the center of the room. There's like a wood stove and a big tall ceiling, and and over the pottery, I saw faces moving, and I heard a voice that said, "Get out. That name has not been here for over 100 years. Get out." And I was so physically sick that I couldn't stay in the place, and I had none of the understanding that I do now. I was 20 something. And so I asked my husband, I said, I'm feeling nauseous. I need to get away from this house for a little bit. And he said, all right. And he thought I'm crazy, of course. Well, he's never stopped thinking I'm crazy, but that's okay. Whatever. Bite me. So we drive away from the house. The further I get, the better I feel. The closer we get, the sicker I feel. And I finally just, at the time I was in a Pentecostal church. And so I'm just like, in the name of Jesus. And so I walk into the house, and I felt kind of insulated from that nausea and malevolent feeling. And of course, we didn't speak to it up to the family, because how would you explain that one? And that night, while we were sleeping in whatever the guest room that we were in, My daughter Kelly was in a crib. My husband and I were laid on the bed, and I'd managed to go to sleep. And in the middle of the night, in my clairvoyant dream vision, I see a woman with an axe, an old woman with an axe standing over me, getting ready to drop an axe on me. And I like screamed and ran, like threw myself across the bed toward my husband. And he doesn't feel stuff like that. So, or maybe he does, but he pretended he couldn't feel that one. But that was just like freakish, you know, and it is like really disturbing when lower vibrational entities cross that veil, you know, and influence our physical world. It's always startling, even if it's a higher vibrational being, but it's a much more positive experience when, you know, physicality takes over. So
yeah, that's like people get up here and say, "Oh, I get sick every time I go near my house or before I even come inside." And you know, the first thing I don't want to look for when I get there is what could be causing them to be feeling nauseous or this way. And other people are saying the same thing. So I'm looking for a fear cage, you know, which is basically probably EMF, high doses of EMF, electromagnetic fields. And so I'm looking for that, you know,
you said
see
a
if there
fear,
is one.
you call it a fear cage? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and fear cage. High doses of EMF can make you feel nauseous, paranoid, like someone's watching you constantly, or there's somebody in the room with you, or dizziness, things like that. So, you know, when we get that, you know, prescription of things people saying the same thing, that's the first thing you want to look for, you know, which can be an old electrical box or something like that can put out a ton of EMF.
Yeah.
And also if they got like older appliances. We had a guy in rural Kentucky. He says, you know, we've got the devil living here. Well, before we could even get out of the cars, the EMF meters were just pegging. I was like, oh Lord, what is this? There's no electrical lines above us, you know, no transformers or nothing like that. No big
source.
towers, nothing. Yeah, it's just your regular electrical lines and stuff like that. And we're like, what is this? Well, we get inside, and do you remember TVs back in the 60s? They were on like wooden dowel legs and stuff like that, and big cabinets.
Unfortunately, I do.
Well, okay. Well, you remember how your mom used to always tell you, don't sit so close, you'll go blind?
Oh, yeah, you move your body or you move foil or something, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is a nugget of truth to that, because if you sit too close, it's giving off such high radiation, you know, it can make you go crazy with this stuff. So there's this old 1960s TV he's still watching, still using. It's, you know, it's only got, you know, 2 channel knobs on it and a volume knob, but he's like, you know, why get rid of it? It still works. And I'm like, whoa. Well, we took the TV out there and went to Walmart and bought a brand new TV. Well, that stopped all the high EMF field. You know, no more fear cage.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can, you know, you look for that kind of stuff, but there's other times you go in and you can't find nothing, but you can just feel it.
Yes.
You know, that's nothing psychic. That is just the EMF that's being bounced off of you.
It's a physical response, yeah. Yeah, you know, I think it's because some of the lower vibrational frequencies come very close to the earth plane vibration, you know, the physical vibration, and electricity is like the bees and the, you know, the feeling of bees and the closing the door that I was
right. Well, and then that goes right. You know, we call it EMF, but it's electromagnetic field.
Yes.
You know, so you know that goes right in tune with the powers of the earth, wind, and sky.
Yes.
You know, specifically earth. So you're talking about vibrations. You know, a magnet will give off, you know, vibration. That's how sound works through a magnet. And you know, and that's the general consensus that, you know, when they break the EMF field, whether it's what you're calling a low vibration or a high vibration spirit energy, you know, but whatever it is, that's what's causing the disturbance, and it can usually be generated back to that.
Yeah.
So,
that makes me think about telling people that, when people are beginning to open their abilities, and a lot of people are becoming more sensitive to spirit, or at least maybe it's because of what I do. I'm just running into people that are talking about it. But, I think of it sort of like if you imagine the person and then sort of this widening cone of energy opening over their head. The earth is very dense, and then the tweener zone, which is where I call the lost people or the wanderers, or the people that are AKA stuck, or choose to be predatory, that low vibrational is the first layer that your consciousness moves through as you move toward less dense areas. And so you can imagine like a little beam or portal opening and closing as you encounter stuff, and then not being able to hold it steady or move your focus past that negativity. It is pretty common for people to have a negative experience too. And, your some of the more dramatic examples that you've given are, beings that have no interest or intention of leaving where they are. That's where they like to hang out.
Well, see, and that all goes back to the whole, we actually our bodies actually vibrate at a certain rate.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to the whole theory of, sound relevance and things like that. But it also sets in line with the psychic energy, and and that goes back to the days of the Druids, where all that, and that's where all that came from. So there's got to be, in everything, there's a nugget of truth somewhere in there. And maybe I'm saying that the wrong way, and people are going to take it the wrong way.
No, it's true. Yeah.
That, and so there's something, it's just like old wives' tales. Something true happened, but it's been, it's just like you can walk into a room with people, of 50 people, and say one thing and say, pass it down. By the time it gets back to you, it's something totally different.
Yeah,
but there's still still that line of the stories in there.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same way with this stuff. So, it's not that I disbelieve in the psychic energies and things of that nature, but there's that old saying: "There's more things in heaven and earth than we know, Horatio," and that's I do believe, and that's true. It's just because I can't see it or feel it doesn't mean it's not there. And you can walk in the same room I do, and you feel and you see things differently than I do. It's just like the thermal imager. We don't see in that dimension, but the thermal imager does.
Yeah, and that's true in life at large. We all have our own perspective. We all have our way of viewing things and processing things. Keith, we're at the end of our time. I can't believe it. The hour has flown. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I hope it was interesting for you.
Absolutely. And anybody who's listening, remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing.